And there was another main objective, which was going to help find the mole?
You got it. I mean, you're using great terminology. There were primary objectives and secondary objectives. And the primary objective was to build a new set of reporting assets, a new source of intelligence, several new sources of intelligence in Falcon, the actual country. And to help you frame what Falcon is, there's only a handful of countries that are true stark adversaries to the United States. Every one of those countries has limited to no diplomatic relationship with the United States. That's how hostile they are. Any one of those countries could be Falcon. The reason that we have to code name the country is because CIA in today's geopolitical world has demanded we don't disclose the name of the country, so we call it Falcon.
What are United States adversaries where we don't have any relationship with them? There's also like North Korea, there's Russia, there's Iran we know of. Are there any others?
Cuba.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a mix there of countries that we do have a relationship with, but it's not a warm relationship, versus countries we have no relationship with. So we have no relationship with North Korea. Mm-hmm. We have a cold relationship with Russia, mm-hmm. right? We have a cold relationship with China. We have no relationship with Iran. Mm-hmm. So they're all considered hard targets, but of various levels.
Okay. So the primary objective is to build a new team in this country, but the sub-objective is in building the team, you're going to find out, hopefully, who the mole is, because the mole is going to make a mistake.
The mole is going to try to find us, because the mole's job is to prevent CIA from collecting secrets about Falcon, because the mole is working for Falcon intelligence.
The mole is working for that country.
Yeah. Right.
The mole is part of the CIA, but working for the adversarial country.
Mm-hmm. Bingo, which is the worst combination you can have. So some of the most famous moles in history are Aldrich Ames. Aldrich Ames was a CIA penetration that worked for the Russians. Robert Hanssen was an FBI penetration that worked for the Russians. So these are famous moles in history. We were essentially being told that these earth-shattering 1990s era moles were still relevant, but now in 2010-ish, there was a new one that had made its way into CIA, and that's a big deal. So it was a very exciting reveal for me, because it meant that we were not just doing something that was relevant and interesting inside of CIA, we're doing something that is quite possibly the most important work that can be done inside CIA at this moment in time.
How did the CIA know there was a mole?
There's a lot of complexity there that is part of why they didn't want us to write this book. Mm-hmm. But what they have allowed us to disclose is that a foreign ally contacted CIA and said, we have collected intelligence that suggests you have a mole. You have somebody inside your organization who's a turncoat, a spy for somebody else. So a foreign ally warned CIA. Otherwise, CIA would have had no idea.
Okay, and foreign allies are people like the United Kingdom,
mm-hmm. Canada, Australia. So you can imagine the disruption that would make. Not only did CIA proper not know they had a mole, it took an ally to tell us. And then when the ally told us, we have to assume that the ally is sharing as much biographical detail as possible. So they're telling you the name. Hey, Bob is a spy in your organization. But now that CIA officer is an American citizen, protected by American rights and privileges. And CIA obviously has no information to show that that person's a spy except for the word of some foreign ally, which is still, in the eyes of the US government, a foreigner is a foreigner, ally or not. So even if it is the UK or Canadians telling us so-and-so is a spy, until we have our own body of evidence, we can't prosecute. That person can't be fired, that person can't be discharged, that person can't be sued, that person can't be arrested. So now CIA has this mess where they are actively losing information, actively losing intel.
Because of this mole.
Because of a mole, but they can't take any action because they have to now build a legal case against the mole to prove that that person's actually breaking the law.
So the ally that calls the CIA and says you've got a mole in your ranks, they named the person?
Most likely. Most likely they would have never made the notification without also sharing the name, which is a courtesy we do to others as well. If we come across information that we know an MI6 officer has been compromised, or a Canadian CSIS officer has been compromised, or an ASIS officer in Australia, we will share as many biographical details as possible.
And did you share the name? when you were called into the room that day, did they share the name with you?
No.
Scribe makes step-by-step guides for any process with AI. You know what's terrifying at work? When you start a new job and they're...
It's hard for people to wrap their minds around the culture at CIA. And I get it, because how do you wrap your mind around an organization you don't know? And the only insight is from movies. So culturally, CIA is a group of people who value secrets. And that need to know is very important inside those walls. It's just something we toss around like movie jargon outside. But inside CIA, need to know is very, very real. And you are only briefed to the minimum that you need to know. So inside of this tiny group of spy hunters, which is known as the Counter-Espionage Group, CEG, inside this very small group, they have the need to know basically everything. And then as you go out in rings from that group, they reduce the information they share. So they might know the name, but then when they share it to the next ring, they just say, hey, there's an officer who's in this office. And then it goes to the next ring, there's an officer in this division, and it goes to the next ring. So the people talking to us as senior leaders, the people talking to us knew the minimum we needed to know was that we were going to build new operations, but we were also going to be most likely targeted by a known threat inside CIA. That was why it mattered to us. Interestingly, that decision is why we had a First Amendment case with this book at all, because CIA was knowingly putting our lives in danger of a foreign adversary by intentionally creating operations that would tempt that mole to disclose our identities.
That was one of the things I was thinking when I was reading the book is you knew that you were being sent to an adversarial country, and you also had the knowledge that working amongst you was a mole who was revealing secrets about the CIA and potentially yourselves to that foreign country.
Correct.
So that foreign country could have killed you.
Absolutely. And that's the second kind of cultural element that people don't understand about CIA. Mm-hmm. You don't really turn down an operation. If you're invited to take part in an operation, you have the right to say no. But if you say no, you're committing career suicide. Jihi, and anybody who reads the book will find this out, Jihi was a stellar officer on a phenomenal trajectory, doing incredible things, kind of really charting the course for what targeters have become today. For me, I proved to be a not very good case officer. And if there was anything I was really hoping for, it was a second chance. So when we were pulled into this meeting and they said, hey, here's this exciting opportunity, here's an operation that we're literally inviting you into this executive suite to invite you to this operation. And we're going to put you together and we need you to do this. That's not a situation that I was going to say no to. I think you considered saying no. But for me, they knew me well enough to know I was not going to turn that down.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have anxiety, you consider saying no to everything. You're always thinking about the risk. But I think that...
What was the risk that you were thinking about?
It is very real that you can be disappeared by a foreign adversary, that you can be, killed by them with no explanation, that you can be just put in jail and then you never get out because the government's not necessarily going to come to your aid. And if they do, it might be 20 years before you're out of their prison.
Every sworn officer has plausible deniability, meaning the president can plausibly deny that you don't belong to whatever organization you are claiming to belong to. So a CIA officer arrested in a Russian prison can avoid all questioning and say, hold on, guys, I'm actually CIA. You caught me. Good job. Now please send me home. Don't have a diplomatic incident. The president has the right to say that person is not CIA.
Yeah.
That person has never worked for me. I don't know who that person is. That their American passport might be verified, but they are legally in your possession of legal requirements. So we don't really know who they are.
So just to clarify then, you were being told you were going to be flown, both of you, to a foreign country, an adversarial foreign country, and you were told that there was a mole amongst your ranks that was feeding information to the foreign country that you were being flown to.
So they actually stationed us in a neighboring country that was friendly. But we knew that Andy and anybody we worked with would have to go into Falcon. So they flew us to a country.
Falcon being the adversarial country.
The adversarial country. So we actually lived in a third country called Wolf, but we were operating in both Wolf and in Falcon. So the danger was still there.
And then that's when Jihee's targeter mind set in, and that's when she started thinking through, well, how could our operation be reverse engineered by Falcon and actually find us? And if we can think like the enemy, we can stay one step ahead of the enemy. So the whole idea of going to Wolf and building our team from the very beginning, Jihee started to architect how we could do that in a way that would foil our aggressors from being able to even discover our existence.
How are you finding the time to send over all these meeting notes?
I got a secret. I've been using Granola.
What is Granola?
So it's an AI notepad. If you want to take notes during the meeting, Granola can fill in every...
And what was the objective when you... So you've got this sub-objective, which I understand, which is to find the mole. But the main objective is just to spy, as usual, and collect information on this adversarial country.
Yes and no. The main objective was to collect information, but the spying, as usual, is the part that was a no. CIA specifically told us they didn't want us to do the standard spy MO. Spying has really been the same since the days of Egypt, the ancient Egypt, right? You find somebody who gives you information about something that they have access to, and that's it, and that's spying. And then you turn it into a report, and you pass it up to somebody who reads it, and they make a decision. They wanted a new kind of mousetrap. They wanted a new way of doing espionage. And when they deployed us to the friendly country, that was their only request, was whatever you do there, coordinate it with the local leadership, and then don't tell us, because we have to make sure that the mole doesn't learn what you're doing.
No bullshit.
That's going to be how we tempt the mole to start probing around and asking questions that are outside of the norm. That's how we're going to reverse engineer this and find the mole. So we need you to go do something new, and we need it not to be standard.
And don't tell us.
And don't tell us, but tell your leadership in the friendly country.
Your CIA leadership in the friendly country.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
And he's going to tell, or she's going to tell them.
No, so it's completely compartmentalized. So
Need to know.
right, because if we kept all of our operations centered in Wolf, then in our friendly country, then the mole would never know what we were doing. So we would be gathering intelligence, which would then be further compartmentalized to maybe a specific office where like 1 or 2 people at headquarters might know about one particular operation, and then 1 or 2 people might know about another operation. But it's because not all of Falcon House would know, the mole would not have access to any of these new intelligence sources. And that's what was really important. That's why they wanted us to rebuild, because he currently had access to all of the legacy intelligence sources.
Okay.
And so if he wanted to, pass any information to Falcon from all of our legacy sources, he could. But if he doesn't have access to our new sources, he can't pass any of that new information on. And now here we are, we're able to gather more intelligence, and then hopefully, if we're lucky, we strike gold on finding out who he is or who he's working with or other things. But yeah, compartmentalization is the key. So we were really very, kind of siloed in Wolf.
I'm trying to understand how you doing what you were doing was going to help the CIA discover who the mole was.
One of the things in double agent operations, which is what you're talking about when you talk about a mole or penetration, a double agent, meaning I'm a sworn officer of CIA, but then I've also agreed to work with the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Cubans, whatever. That's a double agent. Double agent operations are very difficult to maintain long term, because if my information isn't relevant to my foreign adversary anymore, if I'm collecting secrets on Cuba, but I'm being paid by the Russians may not care that I keep collecting secrets on Cuba, so they might cut me off. And then all of a sudden I'm a double agent, culpable of crime, but without protection from another country. So when you think of your Edward Snowdens, when you think of some of your famous turncoats from the United States, they flee to the country that they were working for, ultimately. So if you don't have that escape path, then it becomes very, very stressful and scary for a double agent. So what CIA was counting on is the mole who was reporting our secrets to Falcon. If we could create new operations and that mole didn't have access to those new operations, then the mole would start to stretch. They would start to make